Is that not true? I'd love to hear how, so what metrics would you guys point to for how the scientific community, how the 4 times more per capita on healthcare spending that we spend in America versus other countries has produced innovation?
Oh no! Breakfast cereal is poisonous! Oh no! People that make food and medicine benefit from us being ill. The whole, that actually makes sense economically. If you make medicine, you want people sick. Huh. Hello there, you Awakening Wonders. Thank you for watching us. Remember, we stream Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at these times. Get Rumble Premium if you can. Calley Means has long been a friend of our show, and he's one of the reasons that I believe that the HHS will improve significantly under Bobby Kennedy. Calley Means is a former employee of Coca-Cola turned whistleblower and now expert in nutrition, but not only what we should eat and what we shouldn't eat, what we should put in our mouths and what we shouldn't put in our mouths, but what we should allow into our consciousness. Here is Calley Means appearing at a Politico conference. Remember that Politico is funded in all sorts of interesting and extraordinary ways, where he's given the opportunity to oppose some people that query not only his perspectives, but the Maha movement more generally. And I suppose if I was to define the Maha movement, is if MAGA is Donald Trump and the kind of libertarian, free market, America first kind of no-nonsense robustness that Trump represents, then Maha is Bobby Kennedy, health, wellness, anti-corruption, trying to awaken and enlighten yourself and others. That's why I was so excited personally about MAGA and Maha coming together. Here in this clip, Calley Means defends the Maha movement from many of its detractors. Let's watch it together.
What the voters were trying to say, and I think they were right, is that the system is really on the wrong track. That the existing health authorities just demonstrably, the NIH oversaw, and this is just consensus at this point, the literal creation of a pandemic.
Don't that excite you to see that getting said publicly by an employee of the HHS and therefore of your American government, that the pandemic was literally a creation? Doesn't that seem like a massive evolution? Doesn't that seem significant to you? A significant change in the public discourse from the kind of sort of dumb and infantilized, save a life, wash your hands, wear a mask. Now is people that are significant and influential in government saying it was a creation. And in fact, I can't think of anyone more peripheral and radical when it comes to that issue than Bobby Kennedy. These people now are in a genuine position of power. So whatever the MAGA Trump administration isn't at the moment, it's certainly a massive advance on the kind of inoculated and ridiculous materialism and imperialism that preceded it.
The NIH, whose goal is to promote American health, has overseen a devastation, just an abject devastation in American health over the past 20 years, with disease rates skyrocketing in America, leading the world of almost every single chronic disease, with rates of nearly every single chronic disease being at an all-time high among kids. There's been very little innovation with small pharma, with innovative therapeutics at the FDA. It costs $1 billion to get through the process. CMS is an agency that's much larger budget than Defense Department, that's controlled by the American Medical Association, which is a pharmaceutical lobbying group and is almost predominantly sick care. So there's real problems. And when you turn on CNBC, it's just a nonstop. It's a nonstop infomercial for pharma. It's a Sky Rizzi commercial followed by Scott Gottlieb saying how Bobby's killing people, followed by a breathless coverage of the measles outbreak and no mention of the mental health crisis.
How does cutting a bunch of HHS solve that problem?
It is insane. It is insane for you to insinuate that the thing standing between us and better health is more government bureaucrats.
That's not what I meant. That's not what I'm insinuating.
That is what everyone's saying. It is absolutely insane to insinuate that it's some crime.
It's not all bureaucrats. It's a lot of scientists. It's researchers. It's people who are making sure that
those scientists fundamentally have overseen, just demonstrably, a record of utter failure.
Well, and that is the kind of science that you can follow, isn't it? What are the results of their scientific endeavour? What clinical trials were the NIH funding? What clinical trials were they not? Here's a couple of examples. What kind of vaccine trials are undertaken? Why is it that only now, under Bobby Kennedy, there are going to be clinical trials, significant clinical trials, into any connection between childhood autism and the childhood vaccine schedule? It doesn't hurt to ask those questions. Remember, if you have a principled belief in a scientific theory, then the way to demonstrate it is through clinical trial, through empiricism. Then it's no longer a theory, it's cast iron facts. Now let's look at the facts of the pandemic era, which has brought about to some degree this new political era. We were misled by the media. Why would they do that? Is it connected to their commercial relationships? Is it to do with their ownership models? Is it to do with the kind of convergence of interests that George Carlin articulately described? That the government, global bureaucracies and global corporate entities have the same general agenda.
You don't need a formal conspiracy when interests converge. These people went to the same universities and fraternities. They're on the same boards of directors. They're in the same country clubs. They have like interests. They don't need to call a meeting. They know what's good for them.
I.e., populations that are docile, malleable, despondent and controllable, looking to resolve emotional and spiritual problems through commercial means, certainly not vibrant, vital and opposed to hypocrisy and corruption, willing to take control of their own lives and their own communities, to kill and die for what they believe in, kill only when absolutely necessary, obviously, but to die for what you believe in. That's not the kind of population that the system benefits from, and it's not the kind of perspective they've created through their culture. What we have now is the opportunity to take back the control and reins of our own lives, individually, collectively, internationally, and indeed globally, by embracing a spiritual power that's accessible and available to all of us that I have found through Christ Jesus, and as far as I know, that's the only way. You might have different ways of accessing it. It's interesting to me that many of the people involved in this movement are also Christian. Let me know what you think about that in the comments and the chat. But when it comes to the subject of science, we can see the success of previous administrations by measuring the facts. And it seems that when it comes to food, when it comes to drugs, when it comes to agriculture, they were not basing their behavior, practice and regulations on what's best for American people, but what's best for sets of corporate, commercial and essentially global interests. Difficult to argue with that when you look at the record. Do you agree?
It would be insane. Is that funny?
Not true.
Is that not true? I'd love to hear how, so what metrics would you guys point to for how the scientific community, how the 4 times more per capita on healthcare spending that we spend in America versus other countries has produced innovation?
Well, this is good. I like seeing Calley means in this mode. Calley means in battle mode.
Has there been one single chronic disease medication in modern American history that has lowered rates of the chronic disease? It is appropriate that the American Academy of Pediatrics right now, which is 90% funded by Pharma.
That's the wrong shot to go to, by the way. That jib shot, just sort of looming. Get close on Calley. Get the cutaway of the guy in the crowd. Tax Network USA. This is the time to act. If you've fallen behind on filing or owe back taxes, delay will only make things worse, you know. Every day you wait increases your risk and the consequences. With over 5,000 new tax liens filed every day and powerful enforcement tools like property seizures, bank levies, wage garnishments at its disposal, the IRS is applying pressure at a level we haven't seen for years, driven by heightened administrative scrutiny. Damn you, Doge! Don't make the mistake of facing the IRS alone. Tax Network USA is here to take control. Whether your tax issue is $10,000, $10 million, $10 billion, doesn't matter. It doesn't even matter if it's not 10 something. You know, it's any number. Whatever it is, their team of skilled attorneys and seasoned negotiators have resolved over $1 billion in tax debt using proven strategies. They're not just making up strategies on the spot. That isn't a strategy, actually. A strategy means it's pre-organized, isn't it? It's not strategy, otherwise it's just impulse. Your consultation is absolutely free. Free. Get a free consultation. What have you got to lose? What, you don't want to talk to him? You're worried about it? You might get McGillicuddy. McGillicuddy ain't working that day. You get that consultation for free. Don't wait for another letter or a surprise levy. Put a stop to growing interest, penalties and threats. Take back control of your finances. Call 1-800-958-1000 or visit tnusa.com/brand. Tax season's here. Don't wait for April the 15th to make a move. Beat the IRS to it.
Is pushing Ozempic on 6-year-olds.
But so, Calley,
that is what the medical authorities are doing.
Why not then use the power that you guys have to push the existing infrastructure in that direction instead of slashing it altogether?
It's not slashing. It's taking it back to 2017 levels. That's not slashing. The amount of bureaucrats.
More like 2002 levels, actually.
In many cases, it's actually just not that much. But it is cutting. What is it? 20,000 people. It's taking it back to, it's taking the HHS back to 68,000 employees. It is absolutely like the idea that Bobby Kennedy should not come in and make dramatic changes to the leadership and the personnel at these authorities that have overseen an abject devastation of American health, which the lobbyists in this room do not have the humility to admit that we have gone completely wrong. The lobbyists in this room laughing when we have the sickest children in the developed world. If that is your attitude, and your attitude is to tell the Maha moms that their votes and their voice is not legitimate, that we need dramatic changes to American healthcare, if you think it is illegitimate for Bobby Kennedy to not make big changes to people like Peter Marks, who once again and again went against FDA advisory opinions, who fired the two top vaccine makers, the two top vaccine scientists at the FDA for suggesting that we shouldn't mandate COVID shots for soldiers.
Now, in 2025, do you believe that they should have mandated COVID shots for soldiers, for nurses, looking at the rise of heart disease and turbo cancers and a variety of other conditions? Do you think it should be mandated now that you know what you know about who it is that's likely to suffer or even die as a result of the coronavirus? Do you believe it should be mandated? And wasn't there indeed then a significant requirement for radical change, the kind of radical changes that Bobby Kennedy appears to be bringing about within the HHS? Would you agree?
Who continually went against expert opinion in favor of the pharmaceutical industry, who many people here were collaborating with him with. The fact that somebody like that can't be fired and he can't install tremendous people like Marty McCary and Jay Bhattacharya and Dr. Oz to start reforming these agencies and put in their people, of course he should do that. That's what people voted for.
There you go. Democracy in action. As I've told you before, I know Marty McCary, Jay Bhattacharya, Dr. Oz, and I would say that to varying degrees, all of those people I either know well personally or have studied their work and what they talk about publicly. We couldn't be in a better position, when I say we, I mean the people of America, than with those people in charge of our health, certainly under Bobby Kennedy. When you look at what preceded it and the fact that Anthony Fauci's still out there peddling treachery and looking at ways that he can, through his public life, advance the interests of the pharmaceutical industry and continue to ensure that people are spiritually sick and operating on a low frequency. We are in a much better and improved situation with Bobby Kennedy, Dr. Oz, Jay Bhattacharya, Calley Means himself, and Marty McCary in positions of power. These are principled men who are telling you exactly what they believe, and now what they believe will be clinically tested through scientific trials before enacted as policy. That seems to me to be a radical upgrade on what preceded it. But that's just what I think. Let me know what you think in the comments and the chat. Remember, we stream Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at these times. Get Rumble Premium and watch us those days and those times on Rumble.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you want to see more uncensored content where free speech can flourish, join our live stream. Click the link right here to watch the next video if you want to, or become a member of a growing movement. Download the Rumble app and you'll be informed every time we make a new piece of content. Stay free.